I'm Owen MacDonald, 50 years old, and for 20 years, I've carried the heavy burden of a betrayal that sidelined my railway dreams and forced me to rebuild from the tracks. It was the autumn of 2005, a chilly October evening in Edinburgh, the air thick with the scent of coal dust from the Waverley Station platforms and the faint tang of rain-soaked granite from the surrounding old town, when I faced my former supervisor, Margaret Sinclair, in the cramped dispatch office of the station, a hub of bustling activity in Scotland's capital. The office, with its worn wooden desks, flickering overhead lights, and walls plastered with timetables and faded train maps, had been my command center during the relentless 12-hour shifts that defined my early career, a place where the rhythmic clack of keyboards and the distant whistle of locomotives had fueled my passion. But that night it turned into a tribunal where my ambitions were derailed under the harsh glare of a single bulb. I was 30 then, a dedicated stationmaster with a knack for optimizing train schedules, my innovative routing system reducing delays by 15% and earning praise from network rail inspectors, my leadership earning murmurs of a promotion among the weary staff who saw me as the future of the station. I joined Waverley Station in 2002 after training at the Scottish Rail Academy, bringing a fresh approach to a station plagued by outdated systems, manual signal logs, overworked crews, a turnover rate nearing 25%. My name a quiet hope among colleagues who believed I could modernize operations. But that evening, as I presented a detailed plan for a new commuter line, featuring real-time tracking, a partnership with local councils, and a pilot schedule I'd drafted on graph paper, to secure a £250,000 upgrade grant from the Scottish Government and elevate the station's efficiency, Margaret's demeanor shifted from guide to adversary, her posture stiffening as she adjusted her spectacles. "You'll never manage this station, Owen, stick to fetching tea," she snapped, her voice cutting through the hum of the radio dispatch, her eyes narrowing with a mix of disdain and ambition as she tapped a pen against my schedule. She admitted, with a cold smirk that sent a shiver down my spine, that she'd stolen my plan, submitting it under her name to the grant committee just days before my presentation, securing the funding and a commendation in the Scotsman that celebrated her foresight. To bury me, she orchestrated my demotion with fabricated accusations, inconsistent scheduling based on altered logs, insubordinate behavior from a staged argument over a late train, backed by a loyal dispatcher she'd coerced, and a conveniently timed filing error that lost my handwritten notes, which I'd stored in a locked drawer that appeared rifled through after a night shift. The station management, swayed by Margaret's 12-year tenure, her ties to a senior official who'd greenlit the station's refurbishment, and my lack of allies, my notes gone, leaving me defenseless, upheld her decision in 2006, reassigning me to ticket sales, my reputation tarnished across Scotland's rail network as unreliable and overreaching, a label that stuck to me like soot on a carriage. My wife, Fiona, a warm-hearted teacher with a love for ceilidh dancing and a gentle spirit, supported me, but our savings dwindled under school fees for our kids, our dream of a cottage in the Highlands fading into the cramped reality of a flat with damp walls, a creaky bed, and a leaky faucet that dripped through the nights. Those words, "Never manage this station, stick to fetching tea," became a relentless echo, a bitter refrain that haunted every ticket I punched, every schedule I checked, every moment I stood alone on the platform, the sound mingling with the hiss of steam and the shuffle of passengers. I can still feel the weight of those early months after the demotion, sitting on that creaky bed in our Edinburgh flat, the castle visible through the window a reminder of my lost authority, as I flipped through rail magazines and job listings in the Herald, the ink smudging my fingers with each turn of the page, my eyes stinging with exhaustion after sleepless nights replaying Margaret's betrayal. The flat, with its second-hand furniture, a wobbly table Fiona had salvaged from a church sale, a chair with a torn cushion she'd mended with thread, and a single window overlooking a cobbled lane where bagpipers played, felt a world away from the bustling office I'd commanded, its air heavy with the lingering scent of coal and paper I'd brought home on my uniform, a reminder of the life I'd lost. Fiona took on extra tutoring gigs, teaching Gaelic to kids in Leith, grading papers in our kitchen. Her evenings spent humming tunes under a dim lamp, the scent of chalk and ink a testament to her sacrifice, while I pieced together a fragile existence with part-time roles at smaller stations in Glasgow, signal maintenance in Dundee, and weekend shifts at a tourist railway in Stirling, each timetable a fight to reclaim my role, every pound a step toward survival in a city where rents climbed and rail dreams felt out of reach. Our twins, Ailey and Angus, born in 2007 after years of hoping, grew up surrounded by train sets turned into toys, rail manuals stacked beside their cribs, their childish questions a tender ache. "Why don't you drive the big trains anymore, duh? they'd ask, their small hands tracing the edges of my old cap. I'd smile through the tightness in my chest, spinning tales of new track adventures to connect the world, but the truth gnawed at me. Margaret had blacklisted me, her narrative of my instability spreading to rail operators and unions, her influence a barrier to my promotions, leaving me stuck on the sidelines of a career I'd once loved. Margaret's career flourished in the years that followed. By 2012, she'd risen to regional manager, her name etched on efficiency awards from Transport Scotland, her wealth evident in a townhouse in Morningside, a holiday cottage in the Borders, and a leased Jaguar for her inspections. She hosted lavish rail conferences at the Edinburgh International Conference Centre, her husband David dazzling in suits at charity events for rail safety, her son Callum climbing the ranks with a degree from Heriot-Watt University, while I rebuilt quietly, starting a rail consultancy by 2010 from our living room. My services grew, schedule audits for rural lines, safety training for crews in Aberdeen, who valued my expertise, my reputation a quiet undercurrent in Scotland's rail scene, passed along at union meetings and transport fairs. But the wound festered with every milestone of Margaret's success, her smug speeches at the Royal Highland Show, David's LinkedIn post from the Cotswolds, Callum's assistant manager role at a major hub, each a fresh sting. My parents, both gone by 2018, had believed her lies, their final years dimmed by her version of events, their letters filled with concern over my struggles. Ailey and Angus, now 18-year-old students at Edinburgh College, grappled with embarrassment, their early careers shadowed by Margaret's influence, their questions about my work strained by their childhood respect for the woman. Fiona's unwavering support, her hand-knitted scarves, her late-night stories over cups of whiskey, her repairs of our leaky faucet, kept me steady, her love a steady track in the storm. The turning point came 5 years ago, in 2020, when the first cracks in Margaret's polished facade appeared. Her region faced lawsuits over delayed trains, passengers posted viral complaints on X about overcrowding, and a whistleblower exposed falsified safety reports in a BBC Scotland exposé. At 45, with my hands aching from years of punching tickets, I began my discreet investigation, contacting old dispatchers over pints at pubs in Leith. I'd meet them in the early evenings, my notebook a shield, listening to their tales of Margaret's decline, overworked staff, ignored maintenance, a culture of fear, over plates of haggis and ale. Last month, on July 20, 2025, I sat with Ian, a former signalman who'd left in 2019, at a pub in Grassmarket, the hum of chatter a faint backdrop. His trembling hands passed me a USB drive. "She's crumbling, stolen schedules, fake logs, pressure on crews to hide delays," he murmured, his voice thick with regret. "That commuter line was yours, Owen?" My pulse raced. This was the proof I'd waited for. On August 10, 2025, I contacted Moira, a journalist with the Scotsman who'd uncovered transport scandals with a sharp eye, meeting her at her cluttered office on Holyrood Road. We pored over the USB photos of my 2005 schedule sketch, detailed logs of Margaret's theft, emails hinting at bribed inspectors. "This could end her career," Moira said, her voice a mix of excitement and caution. "But we need the right moment." On August 22, 2025, I dug deeper, turning our Edinburgh flat into a detective's lair. Amid rail guides and timetable scraps, I accessed public records online, my fingers stiff but resolute. At 10 a.m. I found it, a 2022 audit report buried in Transport Scotland archives, tied to my plan, now linked to a derailment scandal that cost the network £300,000 in fines. My hands shook as I printed it, the past merging with the present in a surge of clarity. That evening at 8:44 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, adjusted contextually to 11:44 a.m. British Summer Time, I sat by my window, the Edinburgh skyline a soft glow, plotting my next move. The Scottish Transport Awards were on September 20th, a glittering event to mask Margaret's decline. I'd attend not as the tea fetcher, but as her reckoning. What she didn't know was I'd transformed my pain into a timetable for justice, scheduled by 20 years of resilience. The 4 weeks leading to the awards were a careful orchestration of strategy and discretion, my days running the consultancy a facade for the revenge steaming in my mind. By August 25, 2025, our Edinburgh flat, its walls lined with rail manuals faded by damp, its table cluttered with timetable drafts stained with tea, its air tinged with the scent of coal and wool, evolved into a war room where every penciled adjustment and map pin fueled my resolve. Moira and I met nightly, her notebook open on my wobbly table as we dissected the USB and audit reports, the soft tick of a clock a rhythm to our planning. My 2005 commuter line plan with its real-time tracking and optimized routes had won Margaret her grant, its success a pillar of her rise, while my safety tweaks, signal upgrades I'd proposed had been misused, leading to the 2022 derailment. Ian's data revealed a pattern: stolen schedules from 2007, falsified logs in 2019, a cover-up of a 2021 signal failure hushed with inspector bribes, a fragile network ready to collapse. I contacted Hamish, a retired stationmaster who'd clashed with Margaret over a 2010 staffing dispute, his gruff voice joining us via a crackling Skype call from his croft in the Highlands. This could revoke her credentials, hit her mid-speech, he advised, his tone laced with old grudges. I nodded, my plan a schedule crafted from 20 years of suppressed rage, each minute a memory of lost promotions, stolen credit, shattered trust. The awards, set for 6 p.m. on September 20, 2025 at the EICC, would be Margaret's platform, a gathering of rail officials, union reps, media, and passengers, all drawn by the promise of prestige under the center's modern ceiling. I'd pose as a retired stationmaster, my uniform swapped for a modest suit with a hidden pocket, my movements slow with a cane to mask my intent, my graying hair under a cap a symbol of my enduring duty. My task was to deliver the evidence to Moira, who'd signal Hamish's union contacts at 7 p.m., timed with Margaret's acceptance speech, ensuring maximum disruption. I secured an invitation through Ailey and Angus, now students who'd networked with a judge's son, their email on August 28, the laminated pass I clutched like a signal flare, their note reading, "You're our hero, duh." They suspected nothing, their pride a tool I'd wield with precision. Preparation was a rigorous timetable, a blend of physical endurance and emotional steel. I practiced my shuffle daily along Prince's Street, perfecting a weary gait and a warm, unassuming smile that hid my burning resolve, my cane tapping a rhythm of patience against the pavement. I rehearsed lines, just here to honor rail heritage, though each word carried the weight of Margaret's betrayal, Fiona's unwavering love, and the twins' silent burden over my past struggles. Physically, I reviewed schedules and trained with a signal simulator daily, my hands stiff with arthritis, but each click bolstered my will to stand tall that night. I revisited old mementos, schedule sketches from 2005, a faded photo with Fiona at a rail fair, a whistle the twins gifted, a rejected grant proposal, each a spark in my fire. One night, I found a torn log from the filing error, its edges frayed, and wept, the lost plan fueling my fury. I tracked the twins' lives, Ailey's music studies, Angus's engineering dreams, hoping this act would secure their future free from Margaret's shadow. On September 17, Margaret called, her tone syrupy with false warmth. "Owen, the awards are a milestone. Bring the twins, let's reconcile," she said, her voice smooth but laced with condescension. I agreed, hiding my scheme. She didn't suspect I'd coordinated with Moira, who'd lined up Hamish's contacts, or that I'd commissioned a suit with a hidden pocket, its fabric a shield of my past honor. The suit arrived on September 19, tailored by a local seamstress from Leith, Mrs. Campbell, who chatted about her knitting, unaware of my mission. I tested the pocket, sliding the USB and audit inside, their weight a promise of justice. At 5:30 p.m. on September 20, I arrived, the EICC buzzing with the clink of glasses and the murmur of rail officials, the castle framing the skyline. Margaret spotted me near the entrance, smirking. "Owen, still on the platform?" "Touching," she quipped. I nodded, my cane steady, my pocket ready. At 6:45 p.m. she began her speech, launching into a tale of her railway legacy, and unveiling a new schedule echoing mine. I scanned the scene, Ailey and Angus clapping awkwardly, Fiona beside them, media filming, David sipping whiskey with a smug grin, Callum adjusting his mother's notes. At 6:58 p.m. as Margaret praised her vision, I edged toward Moira, my pulse a drumbeat. I slipped her the USB and audit, whispering, "Now." She nodded, texting Hamish. At 7:02 p.m. union reps stormed in, badges glinting under the ceiling lights, shouting, "Investigation underway." Margaret's schedule scattered, her face paling as they seized her tablet. The award ceremony descended into a whirlwind of pandemonium, attendees scattering like startled deer fleeing the EICC's polished floors, media cameras pivoting to capture every second of the unfolding drama, Margaret's protests drowned by the authoritative commands of union reps that reverberated off the modern walls, the ceiling casting fractured light across the scene. Ailey and Angus stood stunned near a refreshment table, Fiona's hand on their shoulders offering silent support, their eyes wide with shock as the truth emerged, while rail officials whispered in clusters, their industry shaken to its core. I stood tall, My suit a badge of my hard-earned resolve forged over 20 years, my cane a symbol of strength that had carried me through the toughest shifts, my heart pounding with a mix of 20 years of vindication and the bittersweet ache of a family nearly lost to Margaret's deceit that had cast a long shadow. Union reps swarmed the stage, their dark coats a stark contrast to the center's sleek decor of glass panels and steel beams, cuffing Margaret as she roared, "This is a travesty, Owen, you'll regret this," her voice cracking with the desperation of a woman watching her rail empire derail. They read charges: plagiarism that stripped her awards, falsified logs that undermined her reputation, safety violations that endangered lives. Each word a hammer blow to her legacy, the list growing with a £400,000 fine for unaccounted grants that funded her cottage, their voices steady as they recited the litany. Moira approached, her voice a lifeline amid the din of shouting and camera clicks. "They've got her, Owen. You've done it, her career's off the tracks," she said, her eyes gleaming with the thrill of the scoop. The media frenzy was immediate. Headlines like "Sinclair's rail reign ends" and "Stationmaster's 20-year revenge" blazed across screens by 9 p.m., my name a murmur of awe in the chaos that swirled through the center, microphones thrust toward me like signals seeking a response. Margaret turned to me, her face flushed with rage that mottled her once authoritative features, sweat beading on her brow like dew on a rail, her tailored suit now rumpled as union reps tightened their grip on her arms, her posture slumping under the weight of defeat. "You? After all these years, you petty little ticket man? You've destroyed my life," she bellowed, her voice breaking with the desperation of a woman whose timetable was collapsing, her hands shaking as she pointed at me with a trembling finger. I met her gaze, unflinching despite the tremor in my own hands that betrayed the adrenaline surging through me, my voice clear and resonant with the strength of 20 years of silent suffering that had steeled my resolve. "You said I'd never manage this station, Margaret, that I was only fit for fetching tea. I proved you wrong, with evidence that outlasts your lies, with grit that outran your schemes, with every schedule I crafted while you stole and faltered. This is my payback for me, for Ailey and Angus whose childhood you shadowed, for every rail worker you crushed, for every dream you derailed with your ambition." She lunged, her fist raised in a futile gesture of defiance that spoke of her last grasp at control, but union reps restrained her with firm hands, dragging her out as David sobbed uncontrollably, his whiskey glass slipping to shatter on the floor in a spray of amber, a symbol of his fallen status. Ailey and Angus rushed to me, their voices breaking through the noise like a lifeline tossed into a stormy night. "Duh, we didn't know. We're so sorry for believing her," they said, tears streaking their faces as they wrapped their arms around me, the first embrace in years that mended a rift I'd feared permanent. I hugged them back, the warmth of their bodies against mine a balm to the wounds of the past, Fiona nodding in support with a quiet smile, a bridge to a future reclaimed from the rails of my past. The crowd buzzed with reporters, their microphones thrust toward me like levers seeking a pull, but I turned away, my victory a private journey burning bright within, a track no scandal could derail. The fallout was swift and merciless, a derailment that wrecked the remnants of Margaret's rail empire. Union reps suspended her from her regional role, seizing offices at Waverley and depots in Glasgow where timetables sat idle, records from safety logs hauled away in crates, freezing her personal accounts that held the proceeds of her deceit, halting her conferences across the UK where she'd once presided, while inspectors raided her Morningside townhouse for evidence of fraud, uncovering a safe with falsified reports. Her empire collapsed like a bridge under strain, her reputation tarnished beyond repair, rail companies distancing themselves with press releases, her name a cautionary tale whispered in signal boxes from Aberdeen to Inverness, a fallen conductor replaced by silence. The media dug deeper, uncovering a £150,000 slush fund for bribed inspectors that funded her boarder's cottage and David's wardrobe, a detail that sent shockwaves through the Scottish transport sector and prompted a national inquiry, the scandal dominating evening news. Ailey and Angus reconciled fully, moving into our flat to help expand my consultancy into a training firm, their skills blending with mine, while Fiona and I planned a Highland getaway to a cottage we'd finally saved for, the scent of heather a promise of peace. David faded from charity circuits, his social circle dissolving like fog, and Callum, Margaret's son, distanced himself, seeking a rail job under a new mentor to escape the taint. I didn't gloat. My aim was justice, not destruction, a balance I'd learned from years of keeping trains on time, but the sight of Margaret's fall brought a profound peace that filled the hollow left by her words, a quiet satisfaction that settled in my soul like a well-timed arrival. That night, at 11:44 a.m. British Summer Time, adjusted to 8:44 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time contextually, I sat with a cup of whiskey that glowed amber in the lamplight, the news confirming her suspension on a muted radio, a letter from Margaret in hand, its envelope creased from my grip. Oh, and I was wrong. Help me, it pleaded, her handwriting shaky with the defeat that had finally overtaken her, the ink smudged as if by tears of regret. I didn't reply, the past too raw, my strength too hard won to soften now, the paper crumpling in my fist as I set it aside to focus on the tracks ahead. Months later, her hearing began in a courtroom on the Royal Mile, union reps and inspectors wielding my evidence with the precision of a signal lever, Ian's testimony a damning narrative of rail corruption, and Hamish's audit records a final timetable, the gallery filled with former colleagues who nodded in silent support, their uniforms traded for suits. I attended the first day, my presence a silent testament to my journey from ticket seller to this moment, seated beside Ailey, Angus and Fiona whose hand I held tightly, and watched Margaret's defense crumble under the weight of truth, dozens of former staff stepping forward with tales of pressure and theft, their voices a chorus of validation that echoed through the room. The judge, a stern jurist with a love for train journeys and a gavel that rang like a whistle, ordered a full investigation, hinting at a potential ban from rail management and fines that loomed like a fog, his ruling a vindication of my 20-year wait. Ailey, Angus and I launched McDonald Rail Solutions, restoring family pride with safety training, hiring Ian as a consultant whose expertise bridged my past and present, while Fiona retired from teaching to lead community workshops, her hands finding new purpose in storytelling. I visited Waverley Station once, its platforms silent with the absence of Margaret's voice, its trains a memory of my youth, a monument to her greed and my redemption that stood tall in my heart. My revenge, 20 years in the making, was not just justice served with a blast of steam, it was my rebirth, a career reclaimed from the wreckage of her sabotage, a testament to the resilience I'd always carried within, a journey that rolled stronger with each mile I traveled.